Oh man, Apple Incorporated. Or as I knew them, Apple Computer back in the 90s. Back before they got shy about that whole desktop computer thing. Is there any name in computer history that carries as much emotional gravitas? Any name that elicits such powerful responses from nerds? There's not a lot of room for lukewarm feelings with Apple and its products. It's a divisive company, even back in the 90s. You either loved Apple or you hated them. I was born too late to see the Apple II revolution. I have one, I think it's cool, but it was before my time, sadly. Then, there was the Mac. I like to think that I've reformed since then. I try to run everything I can get my hands on now. But there was a time I wouldn't give any other computer a second look. I was that insufferable kid who would use words like Wintel and microsuck and all that garbage. I cringe when I think about it. The 90s saw some pretty neat Apple products. I own a couple, but my collection's honestly pretty humble. Besides, there's many more who could do a better job of showing these off than I can. Here at Obsolete, we're a champion of the underdog. And there's one underdog from the mid-90s that managed to capture my heart right from the word go. It was released to rave reviews, but in the harsh light of hindsight, some have come to consider it a road apple. But to me, she was a workhorse, a window into my own creativity, a stalwart companion. I'm speaking, of course, about the venerable, gorgeous, and unapologetically beige PowerMac 7100. Hell, it was already an obsolete hand-me-down when I got it in '97, but we became inseparable friends. Check her out. There are no Johnny Ive influences present here. Boxy, sharp edges, portrayed only by the simple curve at the front. Lets you know it likes to have a little fun, I guess. Let's take a peek under the hood. There's this big honking flathead screw in the back. You undo it, and the top just easily slides off, sort of. Aw man, my shielding's falling off. Yeah, this old girl has had quite a lot of work done to her, but the general layout hasn't changed. There's a big PSU here. The PowerPC CPU and RAM live under this metal chassis here. Over here we got the NUBUS and PDS slots. These slots provide means of expansion for the computer. And sticking out of my NUBUS slot, I have my orange PC card. A cool piece of 90s period tech. Nowadays, with x86-based Macs, it's trivial to load up a copy of Windows, either in Boot Camp or as a virtualized instance. But in the days of the PowerPC, when Mac users wanted to run Windows, they needed to run an emulator like Virtual PC, which was slow as balls. So some opted to just install a DOS card. It's literally a PC on a card that you slotted into your Mac. This is my video card. I know almost nothing about it, but here it is. Let's start assembling what I'll need to get this rig running. First, I'm going to need some ADB peripherals. Oh, that'll do. Whoa, check out this old Apple adjustable keyboard someone threw in the trash can at work. These things were hot back in the day. I never thought I'd own one. Darn, it's missing a little kickstand leg. Before I found all these, I thought I didn't have any spare ADB cables, and I figured I was out of luck. But did you know you can just use an S-Video cable? Yeah, they use the same connector. Wish I had known about that back in the day. It's difficult to really bring a 90s Mac fully into the modern age. But this adapter here lets me use RJ45 instead of whatever the hell this thing is. Using it, it's pretty trivial to get on an Apple Talk network, or even the net. Yikes. These modern sites look terrible in this browser. Ah, that's a little more like it. In the course of bringing this computer back to life, it wasn't long before I got really tired of messing with SCSI hard drives. I mean, good luck even finding reliable ones anymore. Sure, you can go on eBay and find some server drives, maybe get an adapter, but even if you do, they're noisy, heavy, ugh. I'm not really a fan of classic data storage. So when I found out a clever person on the internet had made this thing, I jumped on it. It's the Aztec Monster Compact Flash Adapter. It's an adapter that lets you use compact flash cards as SCSI hard drives. Pretty cool, though it was a bit pricey. It's funny, effectively, this means this computer has an SSD before my modern rig does. Last but not least, we need to convert Apple's display connector to something sane, like VGA. Not a problem if you have one of these. Perfect. Well, the hardware looks good, so let's spin the prop and fire her up. Oh, it's like music to my ears. Ah, she lives! Like my desktop? Man, it's nice to be back in the old Finder. Control panels, extensions, the control strip. This is the Mac I remember fondly. Some things are pretty slow, but the Finder still feels zippy to me. We'll start with games, since everybody loves games. It's always been a hard role for Mac gamers. Still is. So let's start with a quick rundown of my favorite software from days past. Sim Life, a lesser known game. Great music and sound. You design life forms and select attributes for them, like what kind of foods they eat, where they live, how they give birth, and then you can actually create a custom sprite for them. It's just a classic game, you know? Ah, Escape Velocity. Man, I lost hours of sleep playing this game. At first, I would always play legitimately, hauling cargo and doing everything properly. But by the end, I usually got frustrated, cheated, and ruled the galaxy with an iron forklift. Every Mac gamer's solace in the harsh world. The dark, spooky, and completely wonderful Marathon. Released by Bungie in 1994, it rose quickly to the top of any Mac user's game folder. It incorporates a creepy first-person shooting experience with a deep and complex narrative told by these computer terminals along the way. There's so much to say about Marathon, I don't even know where to begin. It brought innovations like mouse look, network multiplayer, dual-wield weapons to the forefront of Mac gaming. Bungie would take the set pieces that made Marathon great, such as rampant AIs, ancient mythology, and the lone hero space marine saving the day, and it would incorporate them into their now wildly famous successor, Halo. I'm delighted to note that Marathon is still just as playable today as it was in '94. Just 1 second. Boom! Oh, that still feels great. But to be honest, gaming wasn't really the strong suit of Macs in the 90s, and probably really still isn't. The best part about my Mac back in the day was the wide range of creativity software that was available for it. And to me, there's no greater nostalgia trip than this little 3D program here. infini-d. I use this program so much and installed it on so many computers that I still remember the serial number by heart. It's a very nice surface modeling ray tracer. Spline-based, lots of interesting features. I've tried a few 3D Mac programs of the era, and this one remains my all-time favorite. Oh man, World Builder. World Builder was the best! After graduating from HyperCard, I went in search of something more suited to making simple games, and World Builder provided that. It uses this system of rooms to lay out the map. It's a lot like a dungeon crawler. It uses a very accessible concept of props, monsters, and the scripting language is very easy to understand. I tried making some games of my own back in the day, but never got too far. This one here is by Ray Dunican, a hero of mine who produced a number of great World Builder games back then. Well, that's about it for fun software, but you may be asking, hey, what the heck can you do with that computer that's useful these days? Well, honestly, not a lot. But at least one program still works that links to the modern age. This is SoundJam MP. Yeah, it's hard to believe that this simple, minimal program would go on to become the bloated mess that is iTunes today. But SoundJam still works and plays modern MP3s and even internet radio stations. Check it out. The 7100 was such a milquetoast Macintosh. Boxy, beige, boring. I hope you enjoyed this self-indulgent nostalgia trip. I really can't express how close this little box is to my heart. It's like an old friend. It brought a few innovations to the world of Macintosh, but mostly it was just a mid-range workhorse. I found a lot of meaning in this computer and the things I could do with it. It's still nice to know that with the right resources, she'll fire right up and be ready to work, though. Well, that's it. Thanks for watching. So long.